Good morning, everybody. Ben here. Happy Hannon Studios. So, good old porn, Mr. Peter Pumpkin Eater decided to double down on his absolute untrue accusations. So, instead of playing the back and forth game of throwing insults, blah, 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 I did some research. Wondered how he came up with the name Pornstache. It's an odd name for sure. So I did some digging, called some of my contacts in the adult entertainment industry, and found out that good old Peter the Pumpkin Eater had bright eyes for the future. He didn't want to be just your 9 to 5 insurance salesman. Certainly didn't want to be a gas station attendant at any of the many quick trips that were around. So he decided, I want to make it big in the adult entertainment industry. And I got to tell you, my source, and they'll go by the name Jay, said that this guy was passionate. So off to the bright lights of LA he went. He got found by a staffing agency called Excess Staffing. They were the premier staffing agency of the adult entertainment industry. So they brought him in and tried him out in many roles, straight by the pizza guy, and he was always found wanting. There was lacking something. Now this was fresh-faced Pornstache. He wasn't Pornstache yet. In fact, all the people on the set called him Horny Porny Peter the Pumpkin Eater. Because, boy, the man was horny. It wasn't for lack of effort. The man had effort. I mean, kind of like his wrestling career. He tries really, really hard. But, try doesn't always get you the results. But one day, his ship came in. The fluffer for the set he was at was sick. And so he's like, well, I've never been a fluffer before. Let me be a fluffer. Now, it was for a relative newcomer in the industry by a last name Morley was his name. Went on to make real big things, but at the time was relatively unknown. So, Porny did what fluffers do. He fluffed. Oh, and he had a talent for it. He did whatever had to do to make sure that the star of the show was ready to go. And he started fluffing for bigger and bigger names. But something was still lacking. Come closer. Something was still lacking. He was great at his job. He was the premier fluffer. In fact, he was the biggest name to come out of excessive staffing. Their motto, by the way, is we fill one role at a time in the porn industry. So he was laying in bed, little horny porny, laying in bed thinking, what can I do to take me to the next step? And all of a sudden he was looking back at some of the stars of the 70s and noticed they all had mustaches. They all had mustaches. So he grew that amazing mustache that you've seen today, and it tickled just right to keep those stars ready to go. And people stopped calling him Horny Porny and started calling him Pornstache. And now you know where the nickname came from. I'll tell you, he fluffed for some of the biggest names in the industry. He fluffed for Mandingo. He fluffed for the disgraced Ron Jeremy. And as I said, he fluffed for Morley, which some of you now know as Val Venus. So now you know how he got into the wrestling industry. He saw Sean Morley jump from the adult industry to the wrestling industry and said, well, if he can do it, why can't I? Now, WWE, they weren't ready for a fluffer. They wanted the star of the show. So he came back to Wisconsin and started doing the circuit around. And, he's had a career. And we'll talk more about that in some separate videos. Now, some of you might be asking, is any of this true? It is as true as the accusation that I was at his house at 7 a.m. for an interview. So, my origin story for porn, where Pornstache came from, is absolutely true. Just as true as that I was at his house at 7 a.m. looking for an interview. So now you know the tale of where Pornstache came from. More to come. I did a lot of digging, got a lot of information. And of course, we'll kind of dig through his wrestling career as well, because he clearly loves talking about Ben at Happy Hannon Studios. So we'll let people know all about you. Side note, Daniel, you are now on Happy Hannon's radar as well. You like to poke the bear. You're the fan of the heels. You find that you think you're a heel. So you, Dan, are now on the radar of Happy Hannon Studios, and I would imagine Ackman Jones as well. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you're all having just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. This is Happy Hannon Studios, out.